It's a Sicko Satchel type of Monday on the Locked On Hornets podcast. What was the biggest disappointment this past season, and what do you expect the roster to look like going forward? What are some of the big questions about the roster? That's all today on Locked On Hornets.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your podcast, and that does include YouTube. There's Doug Branson. He's back. Everyhornetsboxscore.com. He's also hosting Locked On NBA every single weekday with Matt Moore and Hayes. And I'm Walker Mail. You can listen to me on WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. We appreciate them for helping out the show as always. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. And over the last couple of days since the season is over, we've had a few announcements. We gave you the first announcement, I guess, last week sometime, that the new newsletter is no longer here anymore. It's still new somehow, some way. But it's Forever Young is the newsletter, even though it doesn't exist anymore. But every Hornets box score exists, and there's an announcement that I don't even know about because you wouldn't tell me before we started recording the show. This is real. So I am just like you, the listener, in listening to this announcement from one Doug Branson. Tell the people what you got.
Every Hornets box score will never die. It is a cockroach. You cannot kill it. It will survive a nuclear winter, which is really, I think this playoff drought could be best described as a nuclear winter of winning for the Charlotte Hornets. And yet, every Hornets box score, we persist. And I have an announcement to make that I have decided on my summer project. Every summer, I try to do something fun at every Hornets box score. I was really focused on some history stuff last year. This season or this summer, I will be doing every Hornets draft pick ranked.
Oh, I like that.
One.
Okay. That sounds that sounds like a very Doug Branson-led project. A very Locked On Hornets-led project. It feels right up our alley, so that should be a lot of fun to pay attention to. How are you going to release all of the rankings? One by one? What's the process going to be like?
Yeah, I haven't decided on that yet. I have decided on the criteria. I don't know how it's going to be released. Right now, I am compiling statistics, getting data together, getting some blurbs together, really kind of feeling out my own feelings on it, but I have figured out the criteria. So criteria number one, you won't be surprised by this, Walker, is going to be did it in the box score, or what I call their DIT box rating. Did it in the box score. They had to put up the numbers, okay? I'm not here for any of these intangibles. I want tangibles. I want points. I want rebounds. I want assists. I want steals. I want blocks. So did it in the box score, the DIT box rating. Criteria number two, value relative to draft position. VRDIP is what I'm calling this metric. Value relative to draft position. So if you are a top 3 pick, I expect certain things from you. If you are a top 10 pick, I'm going to expect slightly different things from you. If you're a top 15, top 20, you get the picture. It's going to help smooth out some of the second round picks as well. Criteria number 3, estimated vibes plus minus. How much did the pick add to the good vibes or bad vibes for fans? So that's EVPM. That will also be considered.
Okay.
I have one more. I know you thought I was done. But I've got one more, and this is the most important one, particularly for people who subscribe to every Hornets box score. This is the Stangen or Klangen quotient, or the Sicko metric.
Love it. You're a big-time website once you start publishing your own stats. And then when people start, are you going to have a glossary for the formula in which and how you come up with these stats? Because
yes.
I would be interested in hearing about the formula with all of that. So
well, listen,
I guess you did just kind of go over it.
Yeah, listen, I didn't take any math courses in college, so there won't be a ton of advanced. This will be a scale of 1 to 10 on all of these metrics. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
Okay. Yeah.
You're going to have a DIT box 1 to 10, a VRDIP 1 to 10, an EVPM 1 to 10, a Sicko 1 to 10, which people that subscribe and support every Hornets box score financially will actually be able to vote on the Sicko score. So the Sicko score will come from the Every Hornets box score Sickos. So go check that out, everyhornetsboxscore.com, and it will release, again, I think I'll probably release it in tiers or something over the summer, but you'll get it. Don't worry.
Okay, there you go. You're a big-time publication. Once you start creating new stats like Verdip. Put your dit in the box. Everyhornetsboxscore.com. Go check it out. You're also the keeper of the Sicko Satchel. What is the question you have for us to lead off the show today?
Yes, so this one comes from area code 423. You know who you are, and if you know who you are, let me know in the subtext what you would like your sort of nickname and division to be. So on the subtext, the Sicko Brigade, that's joinsubtext.com/Locked On Hornets. It's the official home of the Sicko Satchel. You can let me know your sort of handle and then your most obscure player that you love, and I will add that to your name. But for now, it's 423, and they want to know, what does the depth chart look like with Cooper Flagg? If the Hornets land the number 1 overall pick, they add Cooper Flagg, what does that look like? And I have, you might need to vamp for me a little bit as I pull it up, but I have the rotation document that we always work from. I've got that made, ready to go.
Okay, so if you're looking for the starting 5, I think the starting 5 would go like LaMelo Ball at the 1, Brandon Miller at the 2, Cooper Flagg at the 3, because I think this is a rookie that you would start. With all of the generational, maybe not so much, but I'd have a hard time believing that Cooper Flagg would not start. So you put Cooper Flagg at the 3 with Brandon at the 2. I think you'd have Miles at the 4 and Mark at the 5. I think that'd be your starting 5. And then as we get into it with some of the player capsules, it'll be interesting to see what happens with Trey Mann, who is not a foregone conclusion to be on the roster next year. Grant Williams is. And so Grant Williams would be somebody that would be your 7th man off of the bench if Trey is back. Grant is kind of a pseudo starter, somebody that plays a lot of minutes, but Grant Williams would be very much so in the rotation. We'll just put Trey Mann there as well. Josh Green, if he's still on the roster, much to Doug's dismay, Josh Green would still be in the rotation as the roster is currently constructed. And then, I think those would be the 8 that I feel best about. The other guys, I guess Nurkic as your backup center, Musa getting those minutes. So then you're talking about your 9 and 10. And at that point, Tijan Saline will find some minutes in there somewhere. But I don't want to keep just listing every single player on the roster. But Doug, we saw all these guys get real minutes, partly because of injury, but also partly because a guy like Musa just damn earned it. That's what he did. He went out there and he played winning brand basketball. So those are the names that come to mind, but the starters seem pretty cut and dry for me.
Yeah, I think Cooper Flagg, automatic starter. He's going to do it on both ends for the Charlotte Hornets. Immediately going to be your wing complement to Brandon Miller. The more interesting question I think would be is if they do deal Miles Bridges in the summer, do you then slot Josh Green back into the starting lineup and go LaMelo, Josh, Brandon, Cooper Flagg, Mark Williams for like a kind of small lineup 1 through 4 into your 7-foot big and Mark Williams? But what if they move Mark Williams? Then how does that all shake out? So a lot of interesting questions. But I agree, Josh Green moves to the reserves, moves to the bench, where I would be more comfortable with his contributions as a bench player. He still needs to score more, but I would be more comfortable with him as a bench player, particularly if you're adding as much talent in Cooper Flagg. And then, so the other reserves, Trey Mann with the big asterisks because you don't know what they're going to do. Are they going to – he's a restricted free agent, so the Hornets have control over that situation. But how much control do they actually want to have? Do they want to lock him in with all of the injury stuff? Although, everything that seems to be coming out from him on social media looks like he is, gearing up for next season. And then Josh Okogie, unguaranteed contract. Grant Williams, he's locked in. Yusuf Nurkic, he's locked in as a reserve. And then in the column, I still have KJ Simpson. Then Nick Smith Jr. would move back in that situation with Josh Green moving to the bench. And then Tijan Saline and Musa Diabate. I mean, your crew is, I name it because it's like, a bench player or a starter gets hurt. And then those are the guys that would immediately slot in wherever it made sense.
Okay, let's move on. I got a couple of other questions, some finishing thoughts. We have another Sicko Satchel question to get to on the other side, but we'll come back to this. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Bees everywhere!
More roster questions I have for Doug as he currently has it constructed, and we also will get to another Sicko Satchel question about the biggest disappointment this past season for Charlotte. That's all still to come. LOH. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. The world has made a lot of progress when it comes to mental health, but there's still a long way to go. Too many people still avoid therapy because they're afraid of being judged. But the truth is, taking care of your mental health should be just as normal as going to the gym or eating healthy. This Mental Health Awareness Month let's normalize getting help and encourage everyone to prioritize their well-being, because when people feel supported, families, workplaces, and the entire community, they are better for it. So it's not just about dealing with big problems. It's about maintaining your mental wellness just like you do with your physical health. And with BetterHelp, getting started is easier than ever. It's fully online, has a network of over 30,000 licensed therapists, and then you can switch therapists anytime at no extra cost. You can even easily switch therapists anytime at no extra cost for whatever reason that you may need to. We're all better with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. More Locked On Hornets ahead. All right, more roster questions for you. I don't know if you want to bring back the screen, but the questions that I had was on the roster as you had it divvied up. Mm-hmm. Is it just because it's a fluid situation that you have Cooper Flagg ahead of Brandon to where you would normally put the shooting guard? Or do you actually think Cooper might slot in at the 2 more so with Brandon slotting in at the 3?
No, the way that I had this set up is just point guard, wing, big. So
just wanted to clarify. Because Brandon would be 2, Cooper would be 3. Didn't know if you thought maybe we could play some fun and games with Cooper at any one of those spots. The other one is the Tijon question is really interesting. We already did our player capsule. This is a question that we could have spent maybe a whole segment on with the player capsule. But as you have it laid out, it makes sense to put Tijon where he is right now. It's also May 5th. So when we get to October, November, December, that will have been many a month for him to have improved, for him to have made sure he is a significant part of the rotation. But it's still not a guarantee because busts happen all the time. Improvement is not always linear. Man, the Tijon question is going to be fascinating going into this next season, Doug, because I think you're right. Right now, he should be in the uh-oh column. But what are the chances he's just flat out in the reserve column by like early November next year, mid-November next season?
Yeah, so I think what would happen in that, I think there are a couple of scenarios where that happens. One, Mark Williams gets moved and they don't return a center. And so then you slot Yusuf into the starting role. You move Grant into sort of a small ball backup center, and then Tijon Salon slots in as your reserve 4. Like that's one way it could happen. And you sort of play Grant, Tijon, and Musa sort of as this like big reserve triumvirate, right?
Kind of like what you did this year, honestly.
It won't be unfamiliar to the Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah.
So I think that's one scenario. Or, and this would be the more dangerous one, you just take Yusuf and you put him over here in the uh-oh column, and you just say, sorry, Yusuf, we brought you over. We thought we were trading Mark Williams, and that didn't happen. We could, and they go to try to move him again, and they can't do it. And they say, Yusuf, we apologize, but, stand ready. That's not going to make Yusuf very happy. If I know anything about Yusuf Nurkic, he is not going to be very interested in that kind of role.
He told us.
It may make it difficult in the locker room. So that would be a challenge, I think. Then you're going to have to move Yusuf Nurkic as soon as possible. But that would be another way. And again, there's just a big question mark because there are some center prospects in the second round, and they have 2 high second round picks where they could bring another center into this fold, one that could shoot. There are a couple of centers that can shoot that will be available either in the late stages of the first round if they want to try to trade up, or into the early second round. So that is another big question mark.
The Nurk side of this is when I asked him at the player exit day interview, what is the thing that is most valuable to you at this stage in your career? And he said, it's playing time. It's minutes. Yeah. It's a nuanced question, but it's minutes. And being in the column would not allow him to see that many minutes. So those are the last questions I had about the roster. Do you have any other thoughts, or do you want to move on to the second Sicko Satchel question?
And just in terms of Tijon, I mean, I think the main improvement that you're going to have to see from him is just basketball IQ, just knowing where to be on defense, knowing where to be on offense, not crowding the ball handler and allowing that ball handler to move, out of that pick situation a little bit more fluidly. And so, more than shooting, more than I think anything, it's just going to be just spatial awareness, processing, IQ, all of that stuff. I think the Hornets are confident that he's going to put the work in, but putting the work in is not really a guarantee that all that stuff comes online. So I think it's, as
it's reps. It's reps, which makes it dicey because when I give you the timeline of early to mid-November, so basically, 10 to 15 games into the season, we already want to see him play a significant role. Maybe that's just not the case, and we got to wait until December or January before he's a real part of the rotation. And if not, then, we already knew that this was going to be a long game with him, but you'd probably like to see him be a significant part of the rotation because he's earned it and not because of injuries by still December, January. I mean, my God, at the latest February, I would say you'd want to see that uptick.
Well, this is what makes it difficult to take a raw prospect sixth in the draft, because the way the rookie scale works contractually, like he's going to be making $8 million pretty soon. And that's now, maybe with the new TV deals, that becomes less significant, but it's still going to be a chunk of change. I mean, it's more than Mark's making. I think it's more than Trey Mann is making right now. He's due for a raise if they bring him back from restricted free agency, but it's still going to be like a significant part of the calculations that you have to make when you're team building. And if that guy's getting 0 minutes because he can't get on the floor, that's going to be a difficult thing. So hopefully we see him in summer league healthy and making big improvements. I think to me, it's 50-50 on if he's a significant part of a healthy, that's the big asterisk, right? With the Charlotte Hornets healthy. I think it's 50-50 whether he's part of a healthy Hornets rotation by the end of the regular season.
Do you want to approach the second Sicko Satchel question before we move on?
Yeah, for sure. So this one is from Hallie of the 12th Dwight Howard division. Hallie writes in, besides injuries, what was the biggest disappointment to you this season? Mine is the in-season tournament. I thought that, if nothing else, that would be something to really fight and win for, and especially because I expected Charles Lee to use it as an opportunity to band together and compete for something. And it seemed like it didn't even matter to him at all. Huge bummer.
So for me, I often do this thing where I 8-mile it on Weston Walker. If anybody listens to Weston Walker, 8-miling it means I just list a whole bunch of examples, and I say, I am white. I am a bleeping bomb. I do live in a trailer with my mom. I give you all of these examples, and then there's nothing left for the other host to chew on. So I don't want to do that. There's plenty of disappointment. Okay. There's plenty of disappointment to discuss. I think the sneaky one was also a really big one. I'm going to go with Brandon Miller's season overall.
Yeah.
Because it was the thing we were most excited about. And Brandon, and maybe this is cheating because he did get injured, but it was the thing we were most excited about in terms of, hey, last year we could hang on to this with the hope. Everything was so disappointing. Injuries destroyed our season. Of course, they didn't make the postseason. But Brandon Miller, as a rookie, second overall, the Hornets got that pick right. And the only reason he doesn't win Rookie of the Year is because of Wemby and Chet, who are unicorns. But Brandon is still so clearly the third best rookie in that year. So then we make this transition, and Brandon, before he got injured, did some nice things. I wouldn't say that it was a huge disappointment. I also wouldn't tell you that he took this gigantic leap forward in his second year. There were talks about him playing at a possible all-star level because we've seen players do that before. After their awesome rookie season, a lot of these guys will just make an all-star game their second year in the league. Hello, LaMelo did that exact thing that we're talking about. Brandon, at the pace he was playing, would not have come close to an all-star team. But also, he does get injured, and we don't have the hope anymore, right? Like, Tijon did not bring us the type of hope that Brandon did his rookie year because he showed us a brighter tomorrow. We just had a whole conversation about Tijon being still in the uh-oh column, where Brandon was a flat-out starter going into year 2. So I really think the fact that we couldn't latch on to Brandon for the hope, and instead it was just Scar stomping on our paws and we fall into the canyon, where with Brandon we'd get lifted up. We didn't have that. So I think that was the biggest disappointment for me.
We didn't mention the obvious thing with Tijon, like probably the most obvious route to him getting playing time is the Hornets trade Miles Bridges, and they don't bring back player talent. They trade him for whatever pick assets that they can get, and then, something that they can waive. I mean, that's, even more than what they could bring back for Miles Bridges, I think that could be a motivator to make that move for the Charlotte Hornets. It's like Miles is not part of the long-term future. Tijon is. This next season is not going to be a playoff season. We need to get more minutes from Tijon to see what he is. Let's move Miles. So that's that. I just thought about that when you said something there.
Yeah.
To Hallie's question. Well, first of all, I would say on the NBA Cup stuff, they got shellacked in that first match against Orlando, and I think they actually tried, but the Magic's defense was playing at just a super elite level early in the season, and they got a huge Franz Wagner game in that one, and then the Hornets were dealing with not only Trey Mann being out, but also Miles Bridges being out, so they were hurting. They were starting Tijon, and then Lee finally relented and started Grant Williams in that NBA Cup game, but it didn't matter. They lost 114.
Yeah, we liked the draw, remember?
Yeah.
It was like, okay, this is a draw where maybe they could do something, and they made sure immediately, nope, we're not doing anything this year, guys.
Yeah, so I think that shellacking really was like, all right, hold on. I don't know that going for this thing makes a lot of sense. So I would say that to that. But on my most disappointing thing, I'll give you one quick one on the court and one quick one off the court. Mark Williams on the court, I just wanted him to take bigger strides, be more physical, play better, not look like he was plotting. And however much that is due to the injuries, the foot injury, the back injury, the fitness coming into the season because of the foot injury and the back injury, obviously the disappointment around the trade not going through, all of that. It was just Mark Williams was just surrounded by disappointment despite some big statistical outputs from him and some monster games. I just thought the year overall surrounding Mark Williams was a disappointment. Off the court, I just continue to be disappointed that we hear the same things from Jeff Peterson and company that we've heard from Mitch Kupchak and Michael Jordan about building sustainability and, continued evaluation. Like, at some point, the narrative has to shift because I think whatever fan base is left here that hasn't completely tuned out is just so tired, and they're watching this playoff basketball right now and they're salivating over it. They want it, they desire it, and it just doesn't feel like that urgency is coming from the front office. Okay,
I have one more. I am going to 8 Mile this coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Mom spaghetti.
Bees everywhere.
I have a 1A, 1B, the other one. I got to tell you about my disappointments for this Charlotte Hornets season. And, of course, we still have a mock draft. We're almost halfway through. We're getting close. That's still to come here, LOH. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you just stop managing your money. So you can stop just managing your money, and you can start building wealth again. All-in-one convenience is provided here with Monarch Money. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, even plan for those long-term goals we were talking about. Plus, they give you easy collaboration. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. More Locked On Hornets ahead. The other one I really thought about going with my biggest disappointment this year, it might even be the right answer. I thought you might go this route, so it's why I went the Brandon route. LaMelo Ball season. I was riding in pretty heavy with LaMelo, reminding you of what he was offensively. And it looked pretty damn good the first month of the season. He was putting up all-star worthy numbers. He had the popular vote guards. The players respect his game well enough, where we know that it was the media who decided that LaMelo was not going to be in the All-Star game. But the players, while they didn't vote him in per se, he was still fourth on the list, still somewhere in contention with your Cade Cunninghams, your Jalen Brunsons, your Donovan Mitchells, the guys that were deserving for sure with what they had done on the floor. But then even more so, Doug, like I think outside of the injuries that are still clearly an issue with LaMelo, the thing is, post All-Star break, it was a rough go for LaMelo. He gave us the Lakers game where he looked bananas. Those last 3 minutes, everything he did dictated the Hornets winning that basketball game. Everything. Passing, making the right decision, scoring on his own, getting to the foul line. It was a clinic the last 3 minutes he put on against the Lakers. And then after that, that's when it got real bad. I think we were only rewarded really like one other really good LaMelo game, maybe two, in terms of the efficiency and what we've come to expect. But the real thing here, Doug, is some of the areas that he had improved in even this season, maybe not as much as we'd like, but some of the areas that he had improved in, the frequency at the rim, the accuracy at the rim, those started to wane. The final chapter of this season, those started to go out the window, and people started forming opinions about LaMelo down the stretch. I think LaMelo's season, because here we are again discussing how he absolutely could be traded, it's a legitimate talking point. Do the Hornets want to move on? If he just has the season I think he's capable of, we're not talking about that. We're discussing LaMelo is a cornerstone of your franchise, maybe even your franchise player that you're hoping to pair next to another franchise-like player in Cooper Flagg. But yet here we are having the same old conversation about LaMelo because of the lack of availability and also because of some of the areas that he just didn't finish the job in terms of improving in, partly because of injuries, partly because the injuries around him didn't allow him to when he was out there on the court. Disappointing season from what I expected for LaMelo overall.
Yeah, it's not my most disappointed because obviously, like, disappointment comes from where your expectations are versus where the results. And I guess as my expectations were a little bit lower, particularly on the injury front. Like, until he plays a fully healthy season, I'm just going to expect around 40 games from him. So that's difficult for a franchise to build around, but that's just the reality of the situation. And so I thought what countered some of the disappointment was that he was trying in a lot of those areas. I would have been extremely disappointed had he not been trying on defense. It just, all of the trying on defense came with this other thing of fouling that he's going to have to figure out. So he's just going to have to continue to improve in a lot of those areas. But more than disappointed, I just became sort of content with understanding who LaMelo Ball is and who he isn't, who he just resetting my own expectations about where his, ceiling is and where he's going to get to. And hopefully the organization has done that as well, and deciding how, because, and I talk about this all the time with him, like, you have to decide what kind of player he's going to be, because he is going to soak up so much of the offense that you then you have to pair players around him that can match his strengths and weaknesses. And so you just have to be very clear about what those things are and what kind of player he is. Is he a Cade Cunningham, or is he a Tyrese Halliburton, or is he something entirely different? And then build your team around that.
But so much of the dividing between those two stars, both of those guys are all NBA players, right? Yeah. So just like what we have with LaMelo, his second year, we've seen it, where he was an all-star and he deserved to be an all-star and the numbers were good, and then you just expected him to get better, except now we have all these injuries. So whether he's Cade, whether he's Tyrese, whether he's freaking Darius Garland, right? All of them, all those players I just mentioned are multi-time all-stars.
Yeah.
Two of them are all NBA players, and we were denied both of those accolades this year because of what happened. And so
I'm disappointed in the media.
in.
I'm disappointed in the media for sure. I mean, come on. he should have been an all-star. I mean, it's ridiculous. So yeah, I'm very disappointed in the media.
All right, mock draft time. What you got?
By the way, Cooper Flagg is 6'9". He's got 2 inches on Miles Bridges, and according to the weight that I found, he's the same weight as Miles. Probably not as strong as Miles, but he could get there. So wherever he plays, if he's a wing, his rookie season if the Charlotte Hornets were to land him, you can see a universe where Cooper Flagg is your power forward moving forward. Like, I mean, guys, 6'9" guys at 225 play power forward all the time in the NBA.
Yeah, I think the skill set is what's funny though is his skill set gives you 3 ability, and there's not many skill sets like it. So there are more guys that fit your typical 4 than what fit your typical high-end 3 archetype. So if Cooper Flagg has what we would consider a rare skill set, then I would think more so 3, because you have answers at 4 more so than you have answers at 3, right? It's Brandon Miller, and then it's I don't feel great about any of the other guys playing that position, but he can, which is why we love him, because he can play 2 through 4 really, and then even do is there some primary ball handling ability in his future? You certainly hope so. Yeah, he can do it all.
All right, the Ringer finally has an NBA mock draft. They've waited a while, but the end of the month, 4:30, they made their first mock draft, and the Charlotte Hornets will select at the number 3 slot VJ Edgecombe. They say this is a toss-up between Edgecombe and Ace Bailey, but VJ gets the nod. Charlotte's core pieces, while skilled, are skinny. This affects not only the Hornets' play style, but also their durability. LaMelo has only played 105 games in the past 3 seasons, and Brandon Miller, the guy who looked like he might be in line to take the keys, missed roughly 2/3 of this past season. Bailey is just as thin, which may only compound the issues. Edgecombe may be smaller, but his speed and his upside as a driver could balance the strengths of Ball and Miller in ways that Bailey cannot.
Here's a question as we continue these mock drafts. Cooper Flagg, immediate starter as soon as he's drafted. Does it end there? Dylan Harper, VJ Edgecombe, Ace Bailey, Con Knipple, whoever. All those guys are coming off of the bench, right? That's how I would see it. At the beginning of the season. I'm not saying they'll finish the season there, but at the beginning of the season, I don't think those guys start.
Maybe, but if Josh Green had played a little bit better, I'd be with you. If VJ Edgecombe can give you, 7-8 points a game, that's going to be a vast improvement over. And I think,
my God,
for sure,
the Josh Green hatred.
It's not hatred. It's not hate. Just go look at the stats.
Well, no, I do. Well, yes, Josh Green still his 3-point shooting. The percentage is very good for him. That's a flat out good percentage, even if it's not on a ton of volume. And defensively, I would say he's a good defender. He's not the best, but I would say he's one of the better guys on the roster. I know you don't like Josh. I get it. I know he's frustrating. He does not. There are too many times where he comes up with a goose egg in the box score, but I don't think Dylan Harper is coming in and starting at the 2, especially with Charles Lee preaching defense, and Josh Green is going to be a better defender than all these other guys at the beginning of next season. Maybe not by the end, but at the beginning of next season.
I don't know. I disagree. I think Dylan Harper starts. I think VJ Edgecombe starts. Okay, I don't think Ace Bailey starts. I don't think Trey Johnson starts. Derek Queen, I think he starts. I think he gets the nod over Mark Williams, Malawash. I don't know. I mean, those.
You think Derek Queen starts over Mark? Really?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. What? I just to throw something at me that I don't know. I think that there's not a lot that you can look at in terms of wins and just overall blowing me away. I mean, they wanted a trademark, so
right. And I think they would trade Derek Queen for Dalton Connect and unprotected first and Cam Reddish or whatever. That was a large package coming in return. Derek Queen's defense as a whole, his defense is terrible. Mark's isn't great either, but also I would say after Josh, he averaged 7 points a game. If VJ Edgecombe averaged 7 or 8, would not be worlds better than Josh, who averaged what you said. I'm defending Josh Green. I'm here to defend Josh Green because it's gone too far. It's gone too far to just say VJ or Dylan Harper would immediately start.
I think when you 19 wins, I think when you bring in a guy at a top 3 pick, I think you're going to start that guy. I just think that's like
Brandon did
a
it.
reality.
I will say Brandon didn't start. As soon as he, and Brandon Miller was a guy that I thought was going to, but he came off the bench. So I wonder if it's just like this rookie thing too, where Brandon Miller comes off the bench as soon as he's the second overall pick. Do they do the same thing with all the other rookies who, whether they're second, third, fourth, fifth, are they going to go with the Brandon Miller role and then eventually start by like, I don't know, December, January? And Brandon also was the beneficiary of injuries. So, and then that's how he started. But yeah, we'll see. VJ Edgecombe, the pick in this mock draft. We'll see if he's going to be the guy or if we can just have Cooper. May 12th, people, a week out. We're a week away from the NBA draft lottery. We'll see how it all unfolds for the Charlotte Hornets. That'll do it for Locked On Hornets. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your pods, and that does include YouTube. Doug Branson, he's working on a project on everyhornetsboxscore.com, so go check that out. Also listen to Locked On NBA with Matt Moore and Hayes. And I'm Walker Mail. You can listen to me on WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.